So I'm going to show you 5 new additions that I personally think are worth the upgrade. These are tools that I use, that I like, and they make things just a little bit simpler. Keep in mind that these are not the only new tools or upgrades. They're not even half of all the ones that I like, but I could only pick a few to keep this video short. I know that some of these tools might not even make your top 5, but that's the beauty of Photoshop CS6. There's so much new stuff that it suits many different interests and fields. We could all make a video of our 5 favorite tools, and there will be no duplicates. Anyway, let's get started with my first favorite tool, and by the way, these are in no particular order. The first tool is the Content Aware Move tool. In Photoshop CS6, retouching images just got a whole lot faster with the new Content Aware Move tool and the Content Aware Patch tool. These magical tools from the acclaimed Content Aware family will let you retouch or recompose images with astonishing ease, control, and speed. We'll use this image of a woman jogging to see how both of these tools work. The first of these new intelligent editing tools is the Content Aware Move tool. This tool allows you to make a selection and move it or extend it to another location without the use of layers or masks. It's almost like magic. Let me show you how that works. First, select the Content Aware Move tool, which is found in the same location as the Spot Healing Brush tool. Then make a selection around your subject, but leave some breathing room since Photoshop will need it while blending your selection and the background. Once you made your selection, make sure that your mode is set to move and select an adaptation. Your adaptation is how flexible Photoshop is going to be with its blending. Very strict will analyze less of the surrounding areas to make the blend, and very loose will analyze more of the surrounding areas to make the blend. I'm going to leave mine at medium. Then I'm going to click and drag my selection of the woman jogging all the way to the far right. Then I'm going to let go. Notice how Photoshop did an amazing job to fill in the area where the woman was before. And Photoshop did a great job blending my selection to its new background. I'm going to press Ctrl D on my keyboard, that's Command D on the Mac, to deselect my selection. And you can see what a great job Photoshop did. The other thing that the Move tool can do is it can extend an image. And let me show you how that works. I'm going to select the top part of this woman. I'm going to click and drag up. Then I'm going to let go. And once again, Photoshop will automatically fill in the gaps and it'll blend in my foreground to its new background. I'll do that one more time just so you can get an idea of how this works. This time I'll make her leg longer. So I'm just going to make a selection and then I'm going to move it up and let go. Then I'll press Ctrl D to deselect my selection, and you can see what a wonderful job Photoshop did of extending this woman's leg. So those are the tool uses of the Content Aware Move tool. Now I'm going to press Ctrl Alt Z to go back to my original image. Okay, so now that we're back, I'm going to show you one other trick you can do with this. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to click on Sample All Layers, and I'm going to draw another selection around this woman. Then, make sure my mode is set to extend, and I'm going to click and drag her all the way to the other side. Then I'll let go. And notice that now I have 2 women running side by side. So it's almost like 2 twin sisters are running together. But look what happened. In this new layer, since I selected Sample All Layers, this second woman got placed in a new layer and everything was blended perfectly. So now we have a second layer. So that's just a little trick that might be useful for you in your project. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this layer since we won't be needing it anymore. And one of the other new intelligent editing tools is the Content Aware Patch tool, which is found in the same drop down right here, Patch. Make sure that under Patch you select Content Aware. And the Content Aware Patch tool is a tool designed for times when you want to remove unwanted content from a photo, then replace it with a precise, seamless patch. The tool automatically creates a patch for you, but only after you've shown it exactly what area of your image you'd like to sample from. And it uses Content Aware technology to blend the patch into the surrounding area. Let me show you how that works. If you wanted to completely get rid of this woman, so we would have a picture of an empty field, just go around and select her, and then click and drag to an area that you want to sample from. For example, this area here, and let go. Once again, Photoshop does a great job of blending my selection and the background. And this is the power of the content aware tools. And as I said twice before, they're like magic, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them. Another great addition to Photoshop CS6 is the oil painting filter, which can quickly give your images the look of a fine painting. And I'll show you how that works. First, go into Filter and select Oil Paint. And notice that as soon as we open the filter, Photoshop already has given us great results. All you have to do is change the settings so you can get your desired look. First, select your stylization. The stylization controls the length of your strokes. Leaving this at 0 will give you very short strokes, while moving this all the way up to 10 will give you very long strokes. I'll leave that at 5 for now. Then, your cleanliness. Your cleanliness controls the details of your painting. Notice if we move this to 0, you get a lot of detail around the painting, and you can clearly see her eyes. If we move this all the way to 10, notice that detail is gone on her face and also on the grass. Once again, I'll leave that at 5. Your scale controls the thickness of your brushstrokes. So a scale of 0 will give you very thin brushstrokes, while a scale of 10 will give you very thick brushstrokes. Once again, I'll leave that to 5. And as you guessed, I'm going to just leave all these at 5 just to get a neutral look. The bristle detail works much like sharpness. You control how much detail you see in each brushstroke. So setting it to 10, you'll see a lot of detail in each brushstroke. If I set this to 0, you'll notice that you'll lose a lot of that detail. Once again, I'll leave that at 5. Then you have your lighting options. Your angular direction controls which direction the light is coming from. So as you can see, if I drag the slider from side to side, you'll see the direction of the light changing on the brushstrokes. And your shine controls how much light is being casted by each of these brushstrokes. So if I set this all the way up to 10, you'll see there's a lot of light being reflected off of each brushstroke. And if I move this down to 0, you'll see that there is no light being reflected whatsoever. So you decide where you want to leave it for your painting. For mine, I'll leave it there. When you're done, just press OK, and you can enjoy your results. Another of my favorite new additions to Photoshop CS6 is the new crop tool. It allows you to crop images faster, with greater precision, and in a non-destructive manner. Let me show you how it works. Click on your crop tool, or you can just press C on your keyboard, and you'll get this bounding box around your image. You can click and drag your bounding box, and you'll see as I do that, Photoshop will create an overlay on top of my image. Everything that's inside of this square is what I will keep, and everything that's in this grayed out area is going to be cropped out. Unlike previous versions of Photoshop, the cropped out pixels will not be deleted. If you want the pixels to be deleted, check on the delete crop pixels, but I don't recommend doing that, since you might want to have the flexibility of adjusting your crop if need be. The new crop tool also has presets for the bounding box. So for example, if I wanted to create a 16 by 19 bounding box, Photoshop will automatically resize that, and it will lock it into that aspect ratio. I'm going to leave mine set to unconstrained for now. I also have different views of my grid. By default, rule of thirds is selected, and you can change that to golden ratio, or you can select others. I'll leave mine set to rule of thirds. The new crop tool also contains the new straighten tool. I'm going to click on the straighten tools icon to use my straighten tool to show you how that works. If I wanted my Los Angeles street sign to be straight horizontally, meaning this line here was horizontal, I can just click on the top corner here and drag all the way to the other side following that line. And notice that Photoshop automatically rotates my image to create that horizontal line. I can do the same thing if I wanted to. Maybe I want my image to be straight vertically following this post. And notice that once again, Photoshop straightened that out for me. And I'm going to click on the check mark here, which will accept all my changes, just so you can see how this works. And as I said before, all this is non-destructive, so I can come back and move my crop area around and change it to a new section if I like to. Another thing you can do with the new crop tool is take advantage of the perspective crop tool. Once I clicked on that, it's going to ask me if I want to crop my current selection. I'm just going to click on don't crop for now. And what the perspective tool does is it allows you to fix the perspective of an image. And if I wanted to have this sign facing me straight on, what I would do is I would use the perspective crop tool to draw around that sign and maybe fix it a little bit if I need to. And then click on the check mark here to accept my changes, and notice that the perspective has changed. Now the sign is looking right at me. But if I were to click back on the crop tool, notice that the pixels have been deleted. So it did not keep my pixels. So maybe you want the sign to be looking right at you, but you still want to have the post in the background. What you need to do is just add one extra step, and I'll show you what that is. I'm going to press Control C and then Control Alt C several times to undo some of these changes. Once I'm back at my original, actually, you know what I'll do now is I'm just going to go all the way back to my original image. And once again, I'm going to select my perspective tool, and I'm going to make a selection around my sign here. Okay. And then, before I accept my changes, I can actually click and drag up and down on these handles to keep the same perspective, but select more of the image. So I'm going to actually bring this down to 50% so I can see more of it. And I'm going to move that up just a little bit more. I just want to make sure that everything in my image is selected. That way I can have more flexibility when I crop my image. Then I'll press enter. Notice that the perspective changed, and it now looks as if I took a picture right in front of the sign. And that's what I wanted. Then I'm going to click on my crop tool once again, and I'm going to crop this. And you know what? This time I'll actually do a 16 by 19 constraint. And actually, maybe a little bit more. Maybe something like that. Then I'll accept my changes. And this is my new crop here. I'll zoom in just a little bit so you can see. This is by far one of my favorite updates to Photoshop CS6. I hope you like it as much as I do. One of the additions that I had been waiting for a long time in Photoshop was a way of creating dashed lines easily on a shape, much like you can with Adobe Illustrator. Let me show you what I mean. In the old days, when you created a shape using the rectangle tool, and actually I'll change the color, my fill color to red so you can see that better, and you wanted to add a stroke, what you had to do before is create a layer style and create a stroke, like so. But if you wanted to create dashes around this stroke, maybe you were creating a coupon, it was extremely difficult. It was many steps, and it was definitely not worth the effort. A lot of times I had to go into Adobe Illustrator just to create that effect. But luckily for us, Adobe Photoshop can now do that same thing. Let me show you how that works. Move up to your tool settings and click on stroke, and you can select the color for your stroke. I'm going to make that stroke just a little bit bigger so you can see it. So maybe something like, actually maybe bigger than that. And maybe something like 68 so you can really see what's going on here. Then I'm going to click on my stroke settings, and from here I can click on this stroke here and you can see the dashes. Now they're a little too big just simply because my stroke is pretty big, and I'm going to make it a little smaller later just so you can see how it looks. But before I do, I want to show you something else. You have different options for your stroke, so I'm just going to click on more options just so we can get all the options in one window. So you can align your stroke inside your shape as it is now. Notice the stroke is inside my box. I can also align it in the center, which means that half of the stroke will be inside the box and the other half will be outside. And you can do outside where the entire stroke is outside the box I created. I currently have dash line selected, which is creating these dashes here. This is the length of the dash. So maybe if I want my dash to be 2 points and my gap 1 point, I can see more of those dashes. I can also create a dash that's 3 and one that's and a gap that's 2. That way, not every dash is the same length and every gap has a different space. And I can do that for 3 different sections. I'm just going to uncheck that for now, just so you can see how the corners work. If I click on corners and round, notice how my corners are now rounded in this rectangle. If I click on bevel, now I get the edge on each corner. And as we've had it before, meter just means a regular corner as you would expect. Now I'm going to click on dashes again, and this time I'll make this one 4 and this one 3. I'll press OK, and I'll bring my width of my stroke down just so you can see how that looks. And this gives you an idea of how the dashes work. If I bring my settings back and I remove the other gaps, you'll see how easy it now is to create a dash outline in Photoshop. This is perfect if you're creating coupons and things like that. Another thing you can do with the new Photoshop stroke is assign it a gradient. So notice how there's a white to black gradient selected. So the top part is white, the bottom one is black. So you can see this better. I'm just going to make this one green. So it goes from green to black. So that's another new thing in Photoshop CS6. And of course, you can apply a pattern to your stroke. So you can select any pattern that you want and apply it to the stroke. I'm just going to keep my stroke at black. And I'm going to close that. And there it is, the new shape strokes in Adobe Photoshop CS6. The last of my 5 favorite new additions to Photoshop CS6 is the tool recordings with actions. And I'll show you what I mean by that. First, open up your actions panel and create a new action. And I'm going to leave the default name. Then I'll click on record. What actions do is that they record every step that I take in Photoshop, but they don't record the brush tool. So notice how I can draw these circles and nothing happens. Photoshop only recorded that I selected the brush tool, but it's not recording my brush strokes, which is unfortunate. But luckily for us, Photoshop CS6 has this option here called Allow Tool Recording. So I can come into Photoshop and I can draw these circles and it records them. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop that for now. I'm going to fill my background layer with white. I'm going to click on my action 1 and I'm going to click on play and watch what happens. Photoshop remembered every brushstroke that I took and it recorded them and it replicated them with my action. And that is something that was not available in any other version of Photoshop. You also have the ability to change the playback options. You just watch these step by step, or you can do an accelerated version. Let me show you how that looks. I'm just going to create a new layer and I'm going to click on my action and click on play. And that was it. If I move my layer up, you can see that Photoshop just quickly ran through that script and created those circles for me in this new layer. I know it might not seem like much, but it's actually a great improvement, especially if you're trying to teach people how to use a certain tool or how to do certain things. So you can use this technique on anything. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. Feel free to leave any question or comment down below.